Well, Dr. Alexis McNeil, welcome to Women Winning Their Way. How are you today?
Just fine, Clara. Thanks for having me.
I have been so excited to get you on the show because you're going to tell us that it's okay to eat dessert, right?
I've worked my whole life for it to be okay to finally eat dessert and feel good about it.
I love it. This whole show is about, how we as women can carve out our own path. And oftentimes what we find is that what we started doing doesn't always end up to what we are doing now. And we oftentimes have several different chapters in our lives. And this is what happened to you. You started on one path, and that led into you creating this beautiful path that you have today that we'll get to in a moment. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started on your path to success.
Okay, well, yes, I've had kind of a circuitous past professionally. So I actually started out in the design world. I was a product designer, graphic designer, and straight out of high school, I feel like nobody is really ready or to decide what they want to do for their whole life as an 18 or 19-year-old.
Amen to that.
I was always just a very creative person. So I thought, hey, let's just go to design school and see what happens. And my mom was an industrial engineer at that point. So rather than, and I loved three-dimensional work at that point. So I loved sculpture. But my mom, being like very science minded, was like, well, why don't you get a sculpture degree and like maybe a product design or something that
Something
maybe
more
has a little more
practical, right?
opportunity
Sometimes
to
that
it.
pays the bills.
Yeah. So I double majored in product design and sculpture, but actually I got more notoriety for my figurative sculpting work. So my favorite thing to sculpt was hands and faces, and I love just the human form and really analyzing it, studying it. I loved anatomy. So I ended up, took me 5 years to get through my double major, and then couldn't find a job being a sculptor that paid anything, although I still love to do it. So I ended up actually going into graphic design professionally, and made a good run with it, worked it for a few years in that field. But then my mom was diagnosed with cancer and given 6 months to live. So basically, my brother and I moved back home, and my mom she had a PhD in industrial engineering and two master's degrees in science, and she was a professor at a university and was the research director at her university too. So she, of course, made it her job to dive into this cancer. What could she do if she had 6 months to live? Was there anything she could possibly do to extend her life? Because she's like, if I have 6 months to live, I'm not going to ruin this time with chemo. Mm-hmm. And so basically we were on this journey with her where she decided that she was going to change her whole lifestyle around. She went completely plant-based, all raw food. She shut down her super stressful company that she owned, and basically just started like gardening, doing yoga, making fresh juice every day. And it was just me, my mom, my dad, and my brother. And we all in this time period kind of got to know what it looked like and felt like to be healthy. We all changed our diet, and we were all out in the sunshine gardening together, and we were doing this together. It was this beautiful family time we had together, but it was also this big awakening that my entire family got to experience. So it was that, and really like diving in with my mom to the science of like what is nutrition. We had this standard American diet growing up, mm-hmm. and we're coming to find out that, oh my gosh, like this yucky food that we're eating and these modern lifestyles that we're living is not conducive to real health. And so I just got completely consumed by all this research, and being there with my mom, just kind of trying to help and try different things. And it basically catalyzed my whole family to heal. At that point I was overweight. I didn't exercise. I mean, I was
Wow.
just, yeah. So we all had the opportunity to really get healthy. My mom ended up living for 5 years, not just like surviving. She
Wow.
really thrived for most of that time. We got to have this, family time together. Me and my brother ended up waking up to medicine. We both just loved medicine. So I actually went back and did all my pre-med work, and was deciding, like, what am I going to do with this? Because I do love, more alternative medicine. I love the diet and the nutrition and the herbs, but I also, have such reverence for conventional medicine and how far we've come with what we can do with, certain drugs and other modalities too. So when I found out about naturopathic medicine, I was like, oh, this is really like a good blend of the alternative and holistic and the conventional side, because with naturopathic medicine, we still can write prescriptions, order labs, we function as primary care physicians, yet we have this other beautiful body of knowledge where we can really help people clean up their diet, and we only have to use drugs if they're absolutely needed.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's such a nice way to practice medicine. So that was the type of medicine I decided that really, sparked my interest and resonated with me. So I
Beautiful.
changed courses, went to medical school. I found, actually, my mom in her business, she ended up traveling a lot. And so she would go give lectures all over the world. And she brought me, and she was responsible for me now as an adult being like so comfortable and confident, being like a fierce world traveler. She would just take me, we'd have one bag each, and we'd just go, whether it's
Oh,
Asia or Europe.
mhm.
So I grew up traveling with her, but we would go out to, come out to Arizona twice a year for her to speak to one of the colleges here. And I just fell in love with the desert. I knew when I was little, it's like, someday I'm going to move to Arizona. And I don't know why or how, but I'm going to move to Arizona. And when I found Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine out here in Tempe, I was like, oh, this is the medical school I'm applying to. This is where I'm going. And that's basically where kind of like chapter 2 of my life, I feel like, really started,
Yeah.
going down in the medical realm. And I didn't even know how much I loved science until I started with my pre-medical classes, and I just aced everything, and it was like effortless. I just loved
Yeah,
it, lived and
one
breathed
of
it.
the things I find so interesting is even though they're two separate things, there is a
Mhm.
common theme because when you talked about doing the sculpture, you mentioned anatomy and how much you loved the human
Yes.
body. And isn't it interesting how it came back? And you're still, as a medical professional, still kind of sculpting. So the idea again,
Exactly.
it's about let's sculpt it. And this is the idea is
Mhm.
let's sculpt health. Let's
Yes.
redefine what health can look like because it
Mhm.
doesn't have to look just one way or the other. And that's where I love what you're talking about is that this path that you went on, it brought that harmony of the holistic and the conventional together. So
Mhm.
so tell us now because again this then led you to a whole other path and started bringing you to where you are today. So continue with your journey.
Yes. So being just this innate, very creative person that I am, I feel like even my once I got out and started practicing, and opened up my own clinic, which now I've been, running for 15 years with my husband in North Valley Medical Center. I feel like we've always had this like very creative approach to
Mhm.
how we interact with people and how we approach medicine, and even just like how we've, set up our practice, how we relate to people, how we relate in business. It's all like very creative.
Mhm.
We like started a yoga studio in our medical office. So we love to weave in just like these little pieces that make us unique as individuals, and marry that into how we practice medicine. But medicine can get really stressful and tiring.
Mhm.
And so after 15 years, I I was really going through something and just kind of just take a step back for about 10 years. I have been an obsessed baker. So in my
Mm.
kitchen, this is the way I unwind every single weekend, Saturday and Sunday. The way I would decompress from seeing patients all week was just piddling around in my kitchen and creating, new techniques and ways of doing things. I mean, my focus was always, I'm a sweetaholic. I love sweets, have my whole entire life. I just basically eat my dinner to get to dessert.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But I also don't compromise health with what I eat either. So it was just like me playing in the kitchen and figuring out really unique ways to pack the most nutrient dense food into sweet, delicious desserts. And
Sounds heavenly.
so so that's just how I kind of decompress in my kind of realm, my social realm. I would love like entertaining. We have lots of friends circles that come over, and that was my thing. I was like,
Yeah,
come on over, I'm making dinner, I'm making dessert, don't bring a thing. I love cooking for people. And this is like kind of how I decompress and like get away from
right.
medicine in my
Yeah.
day-to-day grind.
And I think, again, the theme of the sculpting, again, you took something that you're passionate about, the baking, and again, turned it into a career because that's what
Mhm.
you do now is your detox desserts and teaching people. But again, this common theme of using something you're passionate and then how can you weave it in and create something. Also, and I don't
Yeah.
know if this dawned in on you, but it resonated with me when you talked about you were feeling like maybe, it was time to kind of take a step back. It reminded me of your mother and the
Mhm.
lessons that she, told you of, I've got to start living my life.
Yeah.
And, knowing that we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to find these ways to decompress because it's
Mhm.
so easy to get sucked into the grind of the day, especially when you're running your own business. But
Yes.
making sure that you have that something to decompress. But when even that something can become your passion and you can build on it, that's incredible. As busy professional women, we need to stay on top of our health and energy. The Working Women's Channel is proud to partner with Snapback Energy as a sponsor for today's episode because they help us to show up as the best version of ourselves so we can take on the day no matter what is thrown our way. At Snapback Energy, their scientifically perfected formula is made to make you feel great, and it also is going to increase the overall energy level you have and the health of your gut and liver. Let Snapback Energy be part of your day and help you build the energy to fuel your mind, your body, and your goals. So I want to dive in a little bit deeper into this idea of desserts with a twist. And what are some of the easy things that people can do? I've heard of like some substitutions that you can make to again make a dessert more more nutrient dense.
Yeah, I feel like the first place to start is making sure you're not using rapidly digesting carbohydrates in your dessert. So making sure instead of white flour and white sugar, you're substituting those with more, fiber packed, nutrient dense ingredients.
Mhm.
So I love for baking, I love buckwheat groat flour and oat groat flour and whole psyllium husk and almond flour and coconut flour and all these different like whole food
Mhm.
type, very nutritious grains and nuts. And then for a sweetener replacements, things that aren't going to spike blood sugar and insulin levels, I feel like are really, really important. So we have a variety of sugar alcohols now that don't touch blood sugar and insulin levels. There are natural sweeteners, a little bit of maple syrup, a little bit of honey, and then combination with other sweet tasting things that aren't going to spike blood sugar, insulin, and inflammatory levels.
Yeah. Because I think, that inflammation is so big and so prevalent, and we don't necessarily notice it until you
Mhm,
start, taking things out. And I know I was just visiting with my family, and my sister made some peanut butter cups, and she
mhm.
used, there was some maple sugar or maple syrup in it. There was dates in it that were, ground up
Mm,
and chopped up
mhm.
dates. And again, it still had that amazing consistency and amazing taste, but it
Yes.
was so much, natural.
Yeah,
And again, we didn't have to compromise on the yumminess factor to make it healthy. And what I
exactly.
like now is so many of the normal grocery stores, before it used to be so hard to find these ingredients. It's so much easier. And yes, it might be a little bit more expensive, but again, we can't compromise our health,
Right.
because once your health is gone, it's hard to get it back.
I know, I know. And
Yeah.
I always tell people it's never gonna be an overnight fix. It takes you years to degenerate and get sick, right? So you can't expect to change your diet and a week later you're gonna be feeling 100%. This is,
Mhm.
our bodies are resilient and they're designed to adapt and change and heal, but it doesn't happen overnight. The inflammation doesn't go away overnight, but
Mhm.
you can live every day. The only thing we have power over is, our thoughts, what we put in our mouth,
Yep.
so let's do that. How much we move our body, and I always tell my patients our bodies are designed to move vigorously, and if we're not moving, our bodies are breaking down. So
Mhm.
you have to challenge yourself every single day. Like it's non-negotiable, but you should exercise with joy. You should love what you're doing. It shouldn't feel like a grind.
Right.
Activity is indoctrinated us in a
Right.
cellular level. We're designed to move, but we have to find movement that feels fun and challenges our body.
Yeah. And what I love is, we talk so much and you hear so much about food as fuel. And yes, that is absolutely true. But
Mhm.
again, coming back to, it can still be good. It can still
Yes.
be delicious. And that's
Mhm.
what I love is you're finding ways to not compromise on the yummy factor. You're not finding ways to compromise on the consistency, because some of the, old health foods, they weren't enjoyable. So you
Yeah.
were sitting there maybe, eating celery, but you're like, nah, you can only eat so much celery. And being able to, again, still have so many options. I would love to hear from, from your perspective as a practitioner. Can you share maybe, a success story or two that you've seen where people came in, and after working with you for some time, what were some of the results that they saw?
Oh gosh. There's been so many amazing stories over 15 years. I feel like it's so person dependent, and I
Mhm.
always try to meet people where they are. And wake up little bits, each time I see them, because I can see someone for the first time and I'm thinking in my head, oh my gosh, I have a laundry list of things they need to do and the changes they need to make and what medications I can get them off of and what they need to do for their diet and their health, um, and lifestyle. But you can't overwhelm people with all of it at once. So it's
Right.
more about like figuring out what's going to hit them today. What point are they really suffering right now in my office, and how am I going to help them with that?
Mm.
And then they we give them a few things to do. Maybe it's one or two supplements, maybe it's removing a couple things from their diet that are like the real bad triggers, and helping them just get some sleep and maybe go for a walk for 30 minutes a day. It's
Mhm.
starting with those little baby steps, and then they wake up to feeling a little bit better in their mind, in their body,
Yeah.
and they come back and they're like, well, yeah, I'm a lot better. I'm maybe 25 to 40% better. And it's like, yes, this is a
Mhm.
win. Now how can we take this further? Okay, like what are
Right.
you still doing to cause some inflammation? What medications are you on that might have some side effects that are really preventing you from getting to the next phase of health?
Sure.
And so it can take years of working with someone to kind of whittle away of, what are they doing to really prevent them from launching into the healthiest version of themselves. And so it's a partnership, and it's a mutual trust and respect that we have. And it's me standing by and being there for them. Like I'm their coach, I'm their cheerleader, but I'm also can be like the mom, like kind of like,
Mhm.
no, you're not putting in the effort that you need
Right.
to. Like if you want to be a healthy person, you have to live, breathe, and act and do the rituals that a healthy person does.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's
so
true. You got to do those things. So, I really encourage everyone to, follow you on Instagram. You are so much fun to watch because you're always putting these things together. And again, we're going to put all of your information in the show notes so people can find you, follow you, and possibly even, reach out to you. But I have a curious question to ask you.
mhm.
You make a lot of things. You love your sweets. But if you only could have one thing that you bake, what is like your favorite of all favorite things that you're making right now for yourself?
My most favorite
I know it's
sweet.
hard.
Oh gosh, it really depends on my mood. But if there's one thing I probably would like die without, it's probably a chocolate chip cookie. I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Mm.
just my favorite.
I know. So simple, so good. And I know.
There's
But
nothing bad. There's no bad time for a chocolate chip cookie. It's
never
just
a bad time. And when you can make it a little healthier and even feel good about yourself when you're eating it, hey, more power to you. So
totally.
love that. Well, Dr. Alexis, it has been so great having you here. Again, we're going to put all your information in the show notes, but is there one central area that's the easiest place for people to find you?
Detoxdesserts.com. We've got all of our one-to-one ingredient swaps there. So if you do love to bake, and you want a nice, easy way to simplify healthy, clean baking, all of our product swaps are available there. And then tons of research. I did clinical trials where we prove they don't raise blood sugar, insulin levels. So all of like our clinical data is there. So our website is really, really good to kind of dive into the science behind the healthy baking ingredients. Certainly, I share a lot personally and professionally
Mhm.
on social media. So if I absolutely love engaging with everyone in the healthy baking community. And if you're interested in more like healthy metabolism tips, baking inspiration, certainly follow me. We're detox.desserts on Instagram. TikTok and Facebook are just detox desserts.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're just kind of building, growing. We just started shipping our products in August of last year. So we're new, fresh out of the gate. But you know, bakers absolutely love what we're putting out. So it's really, really exciting to just kind of yeah, engage with all the people who want like an easy solution to have really clean desserts in their house.
I love that. So fun to do. So, one last question for you, because I know you have a lot going on in your world. We talk on the show about redefining success and about creating success on our terms. So, when you're sitting where you are today, how do you define success for yourself now?
I think a lot about this question and what's my motivation? Because I live, breathe, work, but also I'm so passionate about everything that I do. So it doesn't really feel like work. But ultimate success for me is freedom of time, money, and relationships.
Yeah.
And I don't like people telling me what to do or when, or,
Mhm.
I don't mind putting in 80-hour weeks, but I like it on my terms.
Yeah, that's the
And
one.
I like, if I feel like I want to go, you know, work from Montana for a month, that's what I want to do. I want to have the flexibility in my schedule to be able to kind of go and do and explore and travel all the things I love to do, while I'm still engaged in what really motivates me, which is health and nutrition and bringing something truly unique into this world. So it's
Oh,
a blend of all of it.
beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. You have been an incredible guest, and I am now hungry and want to go make myself some chocolate chip cookies. So I can't wait for the world to learn about you so we can all get healthier one dessert at a time. So
I
thank you for
love
being
that.
on the show.
Thanks, Clara.
Oh my goodness, everyone. How much fun was that? I mean, I could think of so many things you can do. For those of you that like to bake, again, you can do this, but this is also something you can do with your friends, with your family. You can, bring these in. You can have baking competitions, but what a great way. But let's bring it back to some of the notes that she talked about. The first thing that really stood out for me is you don't need to know your path today, and you don't need to commit to your path 100% today. Life is about changing. You might have different chapters, and it's never too late to start a new chapter. I love the idea that she was able to tie into some of those passions. Again, her passion for art and sculpting, her passion for baking, and how she then used this to create something that then became her new chapter. So, again, if you're wondering that and thinking, I want to try something new, but I don't know quite what, go back to your passions, what lights you up on the inside, because you might be able to connect that and tailor it to something beautiful. Again, just the idea of wellness. We've got to move our bodies. We are meant to move. We were created way back in the cave person eras where we were running away from, the woolly mammoths and all those things coming to get us. We are meant to move. So make sure, in addition to fueling your body, move your body and get it going, because we've got to be able to move and get that blood pumping. And then lastly, enjoy the simple things. We talk about la dolce vita. Life is, the splendid life, the delicious life, and that's what we're talking about here. Food, health, wellness, it can still be enjoyable, it can still be delicious, and it can be still something that you are passionate about. So I'm hoping that you got so much value. I know I did. Really exciting times where we can take these things and recreate them into something beautiful and healthy for us, so that we can be able to be fueled on the inside to be able to serve greater on the outside. So thank you. Make sure that you take time to rate, review, and share the show. And don't forget to come back next time. I'm Clara Capano, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Women Winning Their Way.